It's crazy to think that the anime Parasyte the Maxim came out in 2014. It's basically 10 years old now. And if you were a fan of anime back then, you knew that it was good quality stuff. Crazier than that, it's an adaptation of a manga from the 80s, and upon release it came to astounding critical acclaim. The story deals with mysterious parasite creatures that take over human bodies and chow down on other people. It also deals with a young boy discovering himself as he grows older, and when these two plots intersect, some interesting things happen. This is a thematic analysis of Parasyte the Maxim. Get ready to never look at your hand the same way again. Body horror. A good and interesting way of making us think about our physical form while also creeping the shit out of us. What is it about our physical forms that intrigues us so much anyway? We've constantly had great literature, like the original Alice in Wonderland and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, that discuss the strange transformations of the human form. We've had a huge film movement of body horror, mostly championed by David Cronenberg and John Carpenter. All of these examinations of the human form force us to ask fundamentally difficult questions on the relationship us humans have with our bodies. Are we just brains and flesh puppet bodies? Or are we an amalgamation of all of our body parts put together at the same time? It's hard to know. Now, one of the most confusing aspects of the body is the puberty stage. Not only do scary and often embarrassing changes take place to one's physical form, but also to their mind. This is where Parasyte the Maxim comes in. This series deals with, surprisingly, quite a few larger philosophical issues than one might expect. Despite the very, very heavy-handed final episode where they basically explain it all during an inner monologue, I still feel like there is a far more interesting theme laid within its narrative. Parasyte deals with the narrative of a boy named Izumi Shinichi as he grows up and transitions through adolescence. It also deals with intelligent life forms that take over the bodies of humans and even in some cases animals. Both of these quote-unquote body narratives merge and, in my opinion, create a contemporary story dealing with the relationship between the changing mind of youth and the changing body of puberty. Shinichi, an adolescent high schooler, has a problem. He has a confusing crush on a girl in his school, and he also has a super intelligent alien creature manifesting within his hand. Throughout the narrative, Shinichi's hand, called Migi, is slowly learning and adapting to the world and to Shinichi as well. Migi is both an animalistic and scientific mathematical being. His philosophies are based around probabilities of survival, and it seems he doesn't have much sympathy for life outside of his own.
No, I can tell you that I value my own life, although I've never really considered any other life form to be all that valuable.
Shinichi isn't so okay with it. He has quite a few mental conflicts over what to do with Migi. I mean, you would too in this scenario. He's constantly questioning whether or not to show the world Migi and if Migi is right in his actions. This is where, in my mind, Shinichi's growth in puberty begins. Aside from how Shinichi grows physically throughout the show, his mind changes throughout the new perspective that Migi adds to his life. In a way, Migi's philosophies are representative of the world around Shinichi. Parasites seem to be all around Shinichi, constantly negotiating the world as a violent, calculated reality. They are politicians, businessmen, rival students, and even caring mothers. It seems that no matter where Izumi turns to, he is faced with this inhumane, consuming world. Shinichi seems to consistently become shocked and confused as he transitions into the world of the parasites. This all happens as Izumi's body and physical appearance changes and matures. I find that this metamorphosis that Izumi goes through is not only the makings of a great story, but also representative of the experience of puberty as a whole. The world of the parasites represents how many growing young adults see the world around them. Growing up, there is a common experience of learning that not only is the world more complex than one may have thought, but also more cruel and unforgiving. As a child, there is the common notion that the world of the adult is empowering and full of autonomous freedom. However, this perspective tends to fade away once one realizes the daunting responsibilities and dangers of independent living. To go from a world that is cared for and nurtured by parents or guardian figures to the harsh reality of mature responsibilities like finances and personal health can be frightening and practically nauseating. All happening while one's body goes through irreversible physical changes. Changes that one may not even enjoy or want. This relates to what I said earlier about body horror. As Izumi's body drastically changes in a twisted state of flux due to Migi, he notices the changes of others as well. Not only does Shinichi gain new physical features, powers, and a more healthy state, others around him present newer, far more creepy and twisted physical forms. This coincides with the sense of physical change that puberty brings. Not only do changes to the body change one's physical form, but also their perceptions of other bodies as a whole. One begins to notice new features as well as processes that another may be going through or have already gone through. So both of these two aspects, mind and body, are put in a state of flux during puberty. In Parasyte, an even more extreme version of that is illustrated, as seen through Izumi's experiences. However, what can audiences, specifically a younger viewer, gain from understanding Parasyte the Maxim? I believe that this can be shown through not only the plot, but through Izumi's relationships with other characters. To start, let's look at Kana. Kana is a particularly interesting character, as she is shown with a particularly strong ability to detect parasites. However, unaware of the larger conflict, she believes that her ability to sense parasites is actually an inner calling to be romantically involved with Izumi. It all cascades in an incredibly interesting dream sequence and her eventual death. Kana, I believe, is the show's way of representing a totally emotionally driven, childlike perspective. Instead of being critical of what she is experiencing, she acts based on an emotional reaction completely. This is similar to Shinichi before the parasite came into his life. Ultimately, in the world of parasites, her unguided reactionary decisions ultimately get her killed. Her frivolous attitudes and actions cannot hold in the world of calculated decisions and real danger. Next, we should look at Tayama and the other parasites she uses in her investigations on Izumi. Tayama and other parasites struggle in society. They are constantly under suspicion, and they struggle with proper human communication and emotion. Without proper human communication skills, as well as any sense of empathy or emotion, the world of the humans provides a difficult process for assimilation. Tayama initially just wants to investigate and experiment with humans, but eventually she desires to embrace the very essence of humanity. However, the very nature of the parasite doesn't allow one to experience the aspects of humanity properly, leaving her to eventually die and surrender her child to the one human connection that she had left, Izumi. Of course, there are other characters as well. The powerful Goto and the sinister serial killer character represent the negative deep ends of both ends of the spectrum. Goto being a soulless business type who kills with ease and is only concerned with the optimal position of power. The serial killer type character is an individual who gives in fully to his irrational, instinctive, reactionary desires, somewhat like Kana, but to a far different scale. So what do all of these characters mean for the overall message, especially in relation to Izumi? Fundamentally, these people and parasites all seem to fall along an ideological spectrum, and smack in the middle of this spectrum is Shinichi. Ultimately, the narrative ends well for Izumi, but not for anyone else on the spectrum. I think this is because Izumi is the perfect balance between the emotional side, or the child, and the overly calculated adult, the parasite. Throughout the narrative, Izumi grows and changes from his heavily reactionary self into a more powerful and mentally competent individual. This happens, though, not because he fully embraces the philosophies of the parasite, but because he and Migi form a balanced bond, and ultimately become one and the same. It seems that Parasyte the Maxim wishes to convey the importance of both the rational and the emotional. Being like Kana is dangerous, though being like Tayama is restrictive and flawed as well. Izumi's balance of both the child and the adult mindset leads to not only the survival, but his overall sense of happiness with himself. His connection to Murano, the girl he has a crush on, is also quite important, with his relationship being a tie to his human side rather than allowing Migi's instincts to take over completely. Alright, So, we've discussed how the narrative is about puberty and what core messages that Parasyte wishes to discuss. In conclusion, youth is a tricky topic to discuss. While it lends itself well to body horror and deeper philosophical discussions on humans and their relationships to animals and instinctive ideas, it also makes for an incredible story. Shinichi's troubles may be extreme, but despite this, his situations are always somehow relatable. The series also serves in a way as a guidance system for those going through this awkward, confusing time of life, to be like Izumi, and to find that balance between the soullessness of Tayama and the emotional recklessness of Kana. The philosophy of balancing the methodical and the emotional. At the very core of Parasyte, it's a story of youth and all the transformations that come with adolescence. The confusion, the bodily changes, and the mental metamorphosis are all important aspects of growing up, and even though the story may be tragic, it is necessary for Izumi to find a sense of satisfaction and sanity in his world.
How in the hell could I ever forget you, you idiot? Miki.